So where did Cain's wife come from? A lot of people ask this question, and they also ask about the other people that Cain was afraid of. Where do they come from? So this is actually a pretty good question. So let's start about reading a little bit about Cain. I'm going to start at Genesis 4:8. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done?" "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was building a city, and he named it after his son, Enoch. So that's where the question is, where did Cain get his wife, and why was he afraid that somebody was going to come after him? So it sounds like there was a lot more people out of the east side of Eden, and where did his wife come from? So there's also other things to take from this. He said he didn't want to be drawn from the presence of the Lord. So there's a lot of things that you can pick up from just reading that about the presence of the Lord. To me it seems like it's either him talking about the place that God was speaking to him, or it's talking about where he lived. And I kind of feel like more that it's talking about where they lived, and they were banished from Eden, the main part where the tree was. So it sounds like to me that Adam and Eve and his sons and daughters were living, as it almost sounds like, as close as possible, if you take that verse literally, that they were close to, quote unquote, the Lord's presence, where the cherubim was guarding the tree. And to me that seems more likely. And so there's a lot of people who have different opinions. There's a lot of people who believe this and don't believe that. So you kind of have to make your own decision about this. So I'm going to throw out just a couple of scenarios out there. The first one is, we don't know how long it was before the fall. So when we read it from chapter to chapter, it's like boom, 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 and you think everything happens the way that it happens, when it actually, there could be gaps in between the verses. So we pick up that God made Adam and Eve, and then they're sitting in the garden, and then the snake tempts them, and then they fall. And we read that without putting kind of any thought to it sometimes. We don't know how long that was before they fell. It could have been a week, it could have been a month, it could have been 1,000 years. We don't know. So we have to put that in perspective. And to me it seems like it wasn't just one day after they were born that they fell. So that's one option. As we read Genesis 4:1 NIV, this is what it says. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. We don't read of any children before this. So one scenario that some people say is, going back to the verse, it gives their how long they live. And when we read it, it says Adam was this many years old. Some people argue that Adam wasn't necessarily given a number until the fall. So that's an argument that basically time was against him when he fell. So that's one scenario. And some people argue that it could be possible that the sons listed were sons that were born after the fall, and that there was children being born beforehand that we don't know about. That's one scenario. An interesting verse is Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, this is after the fall, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. So if Eve is hearing this for the first time, with that scenario in mind, just running with it, it would be really confusing to her, because she would say, what's childbirth? So here he puts on emphasis that it would be basically more painful. So there is either no pain at all, or just little pain during childbirth before the fall. That is one scenario, and not everybody agrees with that scenario. Let me see. Going on to historical records. First Chronicles chapter 1. This is to Noah's sons, Adam, Seth, Enoch. And the problem is, it doesn't mention Cain or Abel when you keep reading. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It's just mean that it was a given, that everybody knew that there was Cain and Abel. In the New Testament, it talks about Cain. 1 John 3:12 NIV. Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. Hebrews 11:4. By faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks even though he is dead. Jude 1 verse 11. Woe to him, they have taken the way of Cain. They have rushed for profit into Balaam's error. They have been destroyed in Korah's rebellion. And a lot of people argue Genesis 5:3 into where did he get his wife and where did the other people come from. And Genesis 5:3 says, when Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. So this is what majority of the people will say about Cain's wife and the other people. Where do they come from? And we don't know at what age did Cain murder Abel. Maybe there's clues out there where you can figure it out. But there's different scenarios, and like I said before, not everybody believes all of them, but majority of people will agree with Genesis 5:3, what it says there. So there's a lot you can take from this, and there's definitely a lot more that you can say about it. When you go back to Genesis 4, and you go down to verse 17, it says that he made love with his wife. It's kind of like it just threw that out there. This is like the first time he heard that he had a wife. So it's possible that he had a wife before he left. And everybody's the descendant of Adam and Eve. So it came from that line, obvious. It's just a lot of people argue we don't know how long Adam and Eve lived before the fall. Somebody says that well, this is how many years he lived, so something had to happen between those years. But you can also argue that his time wasn't calculated until he sinned. So there's all kinds of arguments that you can run with, and you can sit there and study them all you want. But at the end of the day, you have to just say that obviously everybody comes from Adam and Eve. So the people had to come from them. It's just given the amount of time. You could try to calculate based by how old Adam and Eve is, how many kids, how many people could have been around. And Genesis 5:3, it kind of just throws it out there that Genesis 5:5, altogether Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. Go back to verse 4, and after Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. So it kind of threw that up there. So basically, you just have to keep coming back to Genesis 5:4 and going up to what it says about Seth. So you kind of have to kind of read several chapters to get the whole full picture of it. But hopefully that answers some people's questions.